in the Aufricht family, there was a word we used, booger, but when we said booger, we meant, we didn't mean snot, we meant like the things that go bump in the night. We probably derived from boogeyman, but anyway, my dad had this little problem where he was clumsy with the paint can on the ladder and sometimes would spill the paint, and one time he either spilled it on the front window, or I thought he was going to, and I thought that would make an image like, it looks like a ghost and it would attract real ghosts, and it was going to look like a booger house. So I made up this little chant about it. So it looks like a booger house, and then that's, you tilt your body this way, that's the paint can spilling. And then I go, now it looks like a booger house. I did that to my best friend in the 5th grade, at the end of the 5th grade, Doug, and he's like, everybody goes to the booger house. Eventually, I finished the chant up and it went, in entirety, it went, so it looks like a booger house. No, it looks like a booger house. Everybody goes to the booger house. 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 We're gonna get down and boogie in the booger house. Okay, enough of that one. Well, anyway, in the 10th grade, well, before 10th grade, at the end of the 9th, I thought there were kids that were picking on me, and I thought if I went back, I was going to get killed, beaten, whatever. So I told my parents I wasn't going back there. Well, they got me approved to get it. I got approved to go to St. Ed's Catholic school. I figured maybe I could, make a fresh start and this time be normal, but unfortunately there was at least a couple kids there that knew about me, knew my past, because they had been in junior high with me, so that didn't work out very well. I wish I had just stayed at Fairview, because that's when it might have started getting good, because since the junior high was conjoined to the high school directly, and you could walk down the hallway, if you walked the right way, you could walk straight into the junior high. No doors, no gates, no barriers, just straight into the junior high. Plus, we shared a cafeteria, the high school and the junior high, and that was the year that Diane would have been up in 7th grade. And I could have, if we had the same lunch period, I could have twirled my lips at her and said, ravioli and tamale. Well, I talked about that in one of my earlier antics videos, or one of my mini antics videos. I did the ravioli twirl in tamale. Well, anyway, I could have at least done a tour in the hallway if we didn't have the same lunch period. If we had the same lunch period, even better. They usually kept us separate, but I had a tendency to sneak over and sit by the junior high kids when I was in high school, like in 9th grade, because by the time I was in 9th, there was already some 3 years younger people, and I liked some of the girls 3 years younger, but Diane's and her classmates who were 4 years younger, that was my favorite age group for girls, and for years to come as well. Well, anyway, I told my friend Kathy, who I went to high school with, who's around my age, about it, and she said that if I had done that, she might have reported me, and I could just see that. I mean, I don't know that she would have reported me. She might have just laughed at it and thought it was funny and cute, but I could just see it. Her going into the principal or the assistant principal, yeah, there's this weird guy named Joe. He's been a headache to me ever since I was in the 3rd grade in the elementary school. He would walk by me and say, hey kid, and now he's twirling his lips at me saying ravioli. Well, anyway, before I go into anything else, I had this little imitation of a rotary dial phone. I kind of grew up with a rotary dial phone. That's what my parents had. Back in them days, you just dialed the 7-digit number. You didn't have to worry about area code splits and all that shit. Things were simpler then. But anyway, here's the speed dialing version. Anyway, Another thing about the booger thing is when I was little, my mom wouldn't let me use her hairbrush or something. I got mad and went like that, and then I felt embarrassed. I'm like, you didn't see that in the mirror? And she said, yeah, I saw that booger face. And then I'd make faces in the toaster on purpose. I'd say, you didn't see that in the toaster. She'd say, yeah, I saw that booger face. By third grade, I was making fake gum chewing motions because we weren't supposed to chew gum in school, and I was a little mad about that. I did it. This guy, Bruce, who I later twirled my lips and went, Bruce, just to annoy him, just for fun. Bruce. Well, anyway, in third grade, he first made gum chewing motions back at me, and then he said to the student teacher, Miss Henry, he's like, Miss Henry, would you tell Joe to quit making these faces at me? And the teacher said, Joe, turn around, do your work, and cut out those booger faces. Everybody laughed because I had said about booger faces what they were, and the class laughed and said booger faces, and the teacher said, well, that's what Joe calls them. And anyway, regarding the Bruce thing, I said to my friend Rick, I can say McGowan's first name, Bruce. And he's like, you can't say it normally. You got to say it like a mental, meaning a mental case. There was several times where somebody would say, the kid's a mental, and somebody else would say, yeah, I know about me. Well, anyway, if you've heard on SoundCloud my recording where I play disc jockey in Youthful Satanic Ecstasy, the part where I go, Forest City, I'll tell you where that came from. In the summer between 6th and 7th, I saw Diane Rawson coming out of Forest City with, I guess, her dad or another family member. I always thought she was an only child, but when I was 22, 5 years after the harassing phone calls I made that Mrs. Rawson died, and my dad brought me her obituary from the newspaper. I worked with Diane for about a month at this restaurant called Our Gang Lounge, and I really wanted to talk to her, but I was afraid if I got involved with her and she invited me over, her dad might not be too happy with me, might think that I was responsible for his wife's death, especially since in court he said my wife's on pills because of this punk. Although she seemed to be enjoying the calls, sit there talking to me, accepted all my collect calls, which costed her, I'm sure. Well, anyway, back to the Forest City thing. I saw Diane coming out of Forest City with an adult family member as I was going in with my parents. And then months later, I got an AM crystal radio kit, a science kit for Christmas, and my dad and I worked and put it together. He had the headphones in his ear, and he said that there was an ad for Forest City that came on saying shop at Forest City. So I told my friend Doug about it in the junior high cafeteria. And they probably said shop at Forest City if you want to feel great, but I thought they said I thought Doug had said shop at Forest City if you want to be great. So when I was at home playing disc jockey into my tape recorder, when Mom left to go shopping and left me there alone, I played disc jockey. And anyway, it's on Youthful Satanic Ecstasy. You can hear it all in entirety there. Just look it up under my name, Joe Aufricht. But anyway, I made believe I was a disc jockey with disruptive employees. I was taking bits and pieces from this show host, The Ghoul, and he was kind of a comedy host, hosted movies, whatever, and from different things I'd seen on TV or heard on the radio. And I made a little radio show act with disruptive employees. It was part of the radio act. And I, at one point there, said, okay, today's broadcast is brought to you by Forest City. Shop at Forest City if you want to be great. And I went, now that was supposed to be the noise of shattering glass like a window breaking. By the time I was in 12th grade, I did it in front of the kids 4 years younger. And this, I tried to get them to guess what it was. And this guy, Tim Sullivan, said, somebody shitting? I said, no, it's the noise of a window breaking. Anyway, while I was doing it, I then yelled at the imaginary employees that weren't there and imitated a cowboy western show line. You all better be out of this town by sundown tonight. All of you, the Ghoul, Kurt, and the custodian, which is you, and the little punk from the 4th grade at Mrs. Kunkel's room. Diane was in Mrs. Kunkel's room. I had been in that same class 3 years before. Anyway, I also said in the beginning of the recording, and you, Goofy, who never does anything but goof around here, quit acting so abnormal. Well, I got that from a teacher who decided to scold us one by one, and combined with people always telling me I was abnormal or I acted abnormal, or teachers saying I acted abnormal, or I was the only one in the class who acted abnormal. Well, anyway, I played it for Mom when she came home, and she heard it and said, well, you're the one who's acting abnormal. And she also said, that's not funny. And I said, what's not funny? And she said, the punk from Mrs. Kunkel's room. Now, the you goofy thing was from a day in my 6th grade class when the teacher decided to scold us one by one, as I said. When my turn came around, she said, and you, goofy, I see the things you do over there in your main classroom. And I laughed, and she said, don't you laugh, don't you laugh. At the end, the teacher said we all get scolded, and we all end up laughing about it. And I did. Me and this kid, Scott, who didn't get along the year before, we just couldn't stop laughing. Anyway, by the time I was in 12th grade, I ended up in a gym class 2nd semester with Diane's boyfriend Scott, who really didn't like me, wanted to kill me for what I had done to Diane years before. I told him that the psych ward cured me and I was normal now. He said, I don't think you're normal. And another guy told me, I don't think you're normal either. Well, anyway, I planned this little list in my pocket of funny things to do, songs to sing, etc., etc. And I planned it in my gym class shirt pocket, so that somebody would see it and pull it out, and they'd ask me what it was, and I would tell them. So I started doing all these funny things. I was 19 by that time, and I had always been wanting to do funny stuff in front of Diane and her classmates, although she wasn't in that gym class at that time. She was in my typing class. Well, anyway, if I did it in gym class or a locker room, it was because I was hoping that word of it would get back to the chicks, and plus I was egged on by nearly all of them after I sang Locomotion and Dr. Love, a normal version of Locomotion, not that other short one you heard in one of my short videos. But anyway, I did the antics later that day in the lunchroom, and they asked some other guy who really didn't like me to do it. Listen to Joe, watch Joe, and then he's like, he said to me after I sang Dr. Love, he's like, Joe, did anyone ever tell you you got a real serious problem? But at any rate, I had one day, I had a typing project I needed to work on for typing class, and got to go to a typing class that was outside my normal typing class time during study hall, whatever, with a different class, with a different teacher, what it was in session, to get more of my assignment done. Now, no class in session probably would have been more ideal, but that wasn't available. When I got there, the teacher showed me to a seat with a typewriter free for use, but it was around 2 guys who were friends with Diane Rawson and her boyfriend Scott. This guy, Nelson, and this other guy, James, Jock James, and this other guy, James, or Jim, who was a stoner, and this girl, Denise, one of my short crushes from 10th grade, like a side secondary crush to Diane, whatever, because for a while there I had multiple crushes going on, including Diane. Well, anyway, Nelson was also dating one of Diane's friends, Mary Ann. Now, while I was around them, and that girl Denise and the other Jim, the 2 jock guys who were friends with Diane and the boyfriend immediately egged me on to do my antics, including, now I had this paper list, and there was 25 things on it. One of them, somebody added in pen, number 26, blow yourself. Now, it wasn't my idea, but I went along with it. So when they said, do number 26 or blow yourself, I'd go like that. I even did it in front of this other chick, Tanya, who I thought was kind of cute, when somebody happened to ask me to do it in the hall while she was around, and she just looked at me funny, didn't say anything. She should have been running up to me with her arms stretched out wide going, "Oh, you're so cute when you do that." But anyway, I still thought Denise was cute by that time, so I wanted to make her laugh and think I was cute and funny, and she did laugh, and she said, "Oh God, they're making them weirder and weirder every day." And I had been working out on weight, so they had me flexing to show my bicep. I had a pretty good physique at the time. I mean, I was no Schwarzenegger or anything like that, but I had some pretty good muscle. At any rate, at one point I said to the 4 of them, "This is how the locomotion is done. A chugga-chugga motion like a railroad train." Now, not for one moment forgetting my fantasy about wanting to do it with Diane someday, but keeping that quiet because of her boyfriend Scott, who hated me and told me he better not hear me talking anything about Diane, whatever. But at the gym and Nelson, they both said to me, Joe, we want to hear the whole thing. Finally, at one point, the teacher of that class came over to me basically telling me I was lucky I even got to come in there during her class time to work on my typing assignment. I was supposed to be quiet. And she said to me, if you don't quiet down, you're going to leave and you're not ever going to come back during my class time, despite what these two yonkels are doing. You know, but after she walked away, I kept it up because, you know, for 6 long years, come on now, I was now 19. I had wanted to be in school in some classes with Diane Rawson and chicks her age, 4 years younger than myself. My favorite age group at the time for chicks. Denise was 3 years younger, and I liked a few 3 years younger, including that Tanya chick. I thought she was cute. But anyway, there was no stopping me now because now I was in classes with these people, these girls that I wanted to be in classes with. Let's change the subject here. Well, anyway, back when I was 13 going to the bowling alley, the owner, Mr. Kaczynski, or Casey, and his son ran the place, and the PTA moms ran the Friday night bowling for the elementary school league that Diane and her classmates were on, and other people still in that elementary school, same one I went to, Gillis Suite. And they would make me leave the bowling alley till 5 o'clock just because I one day decided to make loud, funny noises like to make Diane notice me the time when she was ignoring me and everybody else had their eyes on me. I think I mentioned in one of my other Antics videos. Lucky her team was one of the last to finish, you know, and they threw me out just because of that, because they thought I was setting a bad example, I guess, and distracting other kids. Well, man, Casey one day saw me near the bowling alley door entrance waiting for 5 o'clock to roll around, and he came to me and he said to me, I guess he was going somewhere to get something, and he left his son and the PTA moms in charge to keep an eye on things. But he saw me there near the door, and he said, don't you go down there, I'll pull your ears off. You know, he just ruined all my fun. Well, anyway, to change the subject again, I wanted Diane so bad that I actually fantasized about killing her classmates and even going to the electric chair to make her notice me. There was a song by Norman Greenbaum, Spirit in the Sky, and I used to sing my own lyrics as I fantasized about it all. I said, yes, I will go right there as soon as I get the electric chair. Well, I had this other fantasy of kicking this guy, Eric Geisman, who was in the same grade as Diane and had been in the same class with her in 3rd grade. I had a fantasy of kicking his balls in and making him fall over in bloody pain and die, and then I would jump up and down laughing like a mad scientist. While all her Diane and her classmates looked on in shock and horror as he fell over in bloody pain and then died. And then I would say, I did it for you, Diane. But I found out in later life, when I was like about 30, and I borrowed the school yearbooks from this girl, Pam, who, by the way, asked me right off the bat, without my mentioning Diane's name, do you want the ones with Diane Rawson in it? It's as if she knew I had a crush on her. I don't know how, but somehow. But anyway, I found out that Eric was not in Mrs. Kunkel's room with Diane in the 4th grade. He was in with the other teacher, Miss Slater. Now, let me see how much time I got here. 19 minutes. Gotta stop. More to come later. This is going to be Antics Video number 8. Again, this has been Antics Video number 8 with me, Joe Aufricht, January 24th, 2018, Wednesday, also known as The Joe Show.